you, recognizing that we are all unique individuals with different perspectives and opinions. We ask for your grace to unite us in harmony and understanding. Help us to listen to one another with open hearts and minds, valuing each person's contribution. We place our nation under your mighty protection, defend our borders, our cities, and our people from every form of danger, whether seen or unseen. Protect us from terrorism, natural disasters, and foreign invasions. Send your angels to guard our land and grant wisdom to our security forces. May your presence around us be a shield and keep us safe in every corner of the nation. We thank you for being our ultimate protector. We pray, amen.
Amen.
Pledge.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, and indivisible.
Okay. We have any comments from the public tonight, Shelley? No? Okay. And any adjustments you need to consider tonight? Okay. It brings us to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
To approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
I will second.
Motion to a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. Well done, team. Okay, regular agenda, review the district's draft fiscal year 2025-26 operating budget and recommended water rate structure. That was on the Google Drive. I think that's you, Eric.
It is. Hold on, that happened fast.
Sorry.
We were talking high school football.
Priorities.
Take your time, don't worry.
We're going to utilize kind of 4 documents. Did everybody get a copy of this? Because I'm gonna get into that in a second. There's copies up here.
Yeah,
Correspondingly, this thing, which is right beside it. But everybody needs to get a copy
Okay.
of that. Yeah. We won't start there, but we'll go there in just a second.
Thanks.
Okay, so the budget is proposed this month. It is not for approval this month. We'll approve it next month. You have 2 documents. One looks like this. It really is more just general dialogue on how the budget comes along. There is some key points at the bottom of the first page, but we'll get into that in a second. The next item is the budget itself. I do recognize there are some typos that we will get corrected. But front page, you'll see revenue and then general expenditures, just kind of the day-to-day stuff there on the bottom. And where the real kind of heavy lifting is on the backside with the 10. One thing I'll point out is we did a modification. I don't know if you recall, but this looks a lot different than the ones we've seen before. What we did is we just hid the monthly columns, made room, and then what I really wanted to be able to do is allow us to see the comments on the same page, because before they were on the other sheet, you kind of had to do this. And so I felt like this was maybe an easier format for everybody to follow along. Our intention was to try to provide comments for items that were, plus or minus 10% or so from last year's budget to this year's budget in terms of the amounts. The big change and the big proposal this year is to address some ditch things that we've been doing. And so that kind of takes me to the other sheet. And then we'll get back to the budget. As you know, we've been working for the last 8 or 9 months to collect data on all the ditches across the woodlands. This map represents, and we're going to change the colors up because green doesn't necessarily mean good in this case. So that was just in this map designated as a 1, but I'll go through that. We identified just about 1,700 asset points, which represent those dots. They could be interceptor pipe, outfall pipe, the ditch itself, overgrowth of trees in the ditches, siltation, drop structures, other structures, those types of things. Those would be the types of things that are a dot or an asset point. We then identified them on a simple rating scale of 0 to 3. 0 was just identification of the asset. 1 was a point of interest, but not much concern, probably a longer off. But for instance, a pipe might be starting to deteriorate, but not quite deteriorating. Item rating 2 would be pipe is starting to disintegrate. There's portions of the pipe that are behind, whether it be the flow line to the top, usually the flow line, but not an immediate response needed. So it'd be something that we'd probably look at, regularly just to monitor and probably put off for a 5 to 10 year look as far as the repair. And then 3s are identified as more immediate. That's where the pipe is gone or disintegrated, or there's a significant manhole, sinkhole, or it's an area where the pipe is really bad and it's just only a matter of time until a sinkhole starts, or there could be a sinkhole that hasn't surfaced yet. But in our opinion, it's more of an immediate situation. So that's kind of how we rated all of the items. This sheet talks a little bit more about kind of what I just described, and then we just tried to do one thing to note. We're going to be following all this up with a report package that has pictures. And so every one of those dots, there's multiple pictures that we took and a lot more information than this. We got it finally done, a couple weeks before getting the draft budgets out. We just didn't have time to make it pretty yet, but we still have some data cleanup on some of the data that we collected, and then just getting it in a format that we can present that's a little prettier. So we'll show you examples of some of the 3s and those types of things. But also wanted to kind of give you a look at what the accumulation of the items that we identified. And you definitely had one of the more substantial areas of note of the 3s. Storm sewer outfalls are going to be pipes that come into the ditch and they go back up into the subdivision. So the gutters that you see in the streets are going to tie into what we call a storm sewer outfall. Those could be of size of 24 to 72, probably. I don't think we have anything bigger than that, or big box culverts in some cases, but generally it's going to be a 24 to 72 inch pipe. Backslope interceptors are pipes. There's a picture in the packet that I can show you an example of one, but basically the rain falls on the ditch. If you know, the ditches look like trapezoids, and on the top of the ditches where you might drive or access, those are called maintenance berms. And within the maintenance berm, there's a mini ditch or a swale that collects either rainwater that falls on it so it doesn't erode the top bank, or it might be collecting water from offsite. So that's kind of and then it runs parallel with the ditch until it intercepts an interceptor structure, and then there's a pipe that relieves it and it ties it back into the ditch. So those are intercept. Those are usually 18 and 24 inch. And then the storm sewers are usually 24 to 72 inch. It varies. Then we have vegetative growth, overgrowth. And what that is, since the ditches were built, the trees have, just basically crept into the center. And in some cases, that maintenance berm that you would otherwise utilize for maintenance and for access, you can't get access in some cases. It's grown over so much that it's actually over the slope part. And so, trying to either get a mower or whatever, we have to kind of go down the slope to run the ditch. And so that's not acceptable. So we need to address that. It's not necessarily heavy clearing. It's more pruning than anything, but some of it's pretty thick and pretty deep. The trunks still may be out at the edge of the right of way or at the edge of the ditch, but just the overgrowth in some cases. And then of course, over time, birds sitting on a fence deposit seeds, and right on the fence line, a lot of trees grow just because of that phenomenon. And over years, some of that stuff's grown. So that's what vegetation overgrowth is. So,
Eric, does that overgrowth also apply to the ditch itself? If the silting in, or is that another category yet?
Another
even.
category, yeah, another category. Silting in would be, in the flowway
Yeah.
of the ditch, you have.
Something's growing up underneath there. It looks like it's filled up, right?
Yes, yes. In fact, one of my pet projects that I want to do is in 47. It's one of the ditches at the low spot um, between Branch Crossing and Egypt. There's two ditches. The one at the low spot is one of my pet peeves. So it's a big endeavor because there's two ditches that you can see as you drive research going eastbound. One of them looks pretty clean and kind of turns and goes off away from you south. The other one, there's a lot of growth in the middle. And we have a drainage project problem across the street from there. So that's one of the DSIL projects. It's going to be a bigger project.
Okay.
But yes, that would be, and then if the siltation gets that bad, then you have actually growth on it. We do herbicide every year on those projects. That was herbicided, believe it or not, last year in the fall. So all that was dead, but you see it now when you drive by, it's there. So that's a good example. But so we took these 6 storm sewers, 12 interceptors, and the vegetative over the growth. We converted that to cost estimates, or at least put some dollars to it, and that's what you see in the budget on the tan on line items 5300.12 and 5300.14 are where all of that work sits. And one is large ditch repair and one is storm sewer repair. So they're just different buckets, but since the storm sewers, outfalls are, even though they go into the ditch, they are tied to the storm sewers. So classifying that under storm sewer repair. And then because the interceptor pipes and piping, interceptor structure and piping is specifically related to the ditch, those are in the ditch line item. It really doesn't matter where they are, but that's just so you know how we classify those. So obviously those are significant percentage increases from the previous budgets. Another item that we're not about 50% is engineering and technical services. We did a water and sewer rate study a couple years ago. It's time. We were going to do that every 2 to 3 years. This is 3 years. We need to do that. So there's some money in there for each of the months to do that, as well as the reoccurring every 5 years. We got to update the emergency response plan for TCQ and EPA. So there's some money in there to do that across.
Eric, that's the engineering and technical services line.
53 on the street.
Yeah.
So the water service maintenance went down. We did that escalated last year because we focused on the large 3 and 4 inch meters. So those were purchased. So not all of them are installed, but a good chunk of them are. And we'll continue that program. But that's why that number's come down. And then sewer repair, you've got some work ongoing. See on our agenda tonight, there's payout for that project. Some of that work is still in there, but those were the main items. We are going, in order to assist in doing some of this work, we recommended in the trustee budget to build a field crew that would be, and equipment necessary for a field crew to be designated specifically for ditch work. Now, we won't be able to do some of the larger projects, the larger pipes, the larger, heavier DSIL. This equipment is not huge, large excavators, things like that would be needed for some of that work. But that work that we can do, we'll essentially be tackling a lot of that while we arrange for contractors to do some of the bigger items across all the muds.
Has the Woodlands ever had a ditch rehabilitation project?
Not to my knowledge.
So all of this is all original.
Correct.
Mud 36 has had a lot of work, right?
Mud 36 years ago did address a lot of things. They were proactive for sure. And it's funny, look at their map.
Yeah.
They got a lot of green.
They have more green. Maybe that's a coincidence, maybe not. But yes, I think we've not had a program like this that I'm aware of. We've probably been a little reactive on some things. But the reality is even though, I mean, all the piping things, those things were eventually gonna happen one way or the other. We're 50 years old, so there's a lot of things. And this pipe starts to deteriorate. It's metal pipe, it's corrugated metal pipe in a water atmosphere. It's only a matter of time. Some storm sewers are concrete, but those are in good shape. On the storm sewers that are in your neighborhoods are generally concrete pipe. But it'll come through the houses to get to the ditch, and the last manhole before it goes out of the ditch, there's an interface, change where it goes from, in that manhole, it'll change from concrete to metal as it goes into the ditches. And that's the segment of piece that we're talking about. We replace those these days in modern times with HDPE plastics, so they're not going to deteriorate, theoretically like the corrugated metal pipe will. So
Do you know what the expected life is?
just what they hadn't been in the ground long to prove it, but
Yeah.
I mean, they say 50 to 100 years is what they say. So
Some of
it's
these,
not a corrosive environment like a sewer, like a sanitary sewer.
Yeah.
So presumably it would hold up to that.
How often, how long do you think it's gonna take?
So I guess we're gonna be optimistic and say we're gonna try to get the majority of it done in a year. After that, I think it'll take probably a little longer than that, but I wanted to put the worst things in here so that at least we knew what the worst was. If we don't get it all done, because I mean you got 18 projects this would probably take a week to 2 weeks to finish each one of them. So you look at that just across the board, across all of them. Granted, the shallower ones, they're easier. If they don't have a lot of slope paving, they're easier. There's a lot of parameters to each one that, makes them easier and faster and cheaper. But I think it's going to take every bit of a year, if not more. Now, what we think is once we get over the hump of finishing all of the heavy work, we're going to continue through a ongoing maintenance program to keep that crew as busy as we can throughout every day, just going through, looking at ditches, seeing any, a silted up ditch or a ditch that has silt in it. It didn't happen in a month. It didn't happen, it happened over time. So if we keep up with it, it doesn't get to that, there's some areas that have 2 or 3 feet of silt in it. And so those are the things that we'll address. And then we'll just make sure through our ongoing maintenance program that we keep those levels down, that we keep trees trimmed and things like that, and just keep up with it. So it doesn't get as big as it is right now.
So these line items probably aren't gonna show up in year 3. These costs, you think it's not gonna be every,
No. This is it. No. Well, the 2s eventually will become 3s. So, I mean, that will happen eventually, but not year over year over year.
Okay.
I mean, as we monitor 2s and if they become 3s, then we will likely, obviously put those in the budget. But this is the heavy lifting right now. The 1s obviously will become 2s and 2s will become 3s. And, so over time, I think we can tackle them more one-on-one or one at a time as we go and drop the budget down and just be more maintenance oriented, still proactive in what we're doing, but more maintenance focused.
I'm glad we're addressing this. So you can see when you walk around in our neighborhood if there are issues. So this is great.
Yes.
and this includes the purchasing of the equipment this year. That's not going to be kind of recurring per se. So we're going to see a little bit of an increase here, and then this is going to level out to whatever your kind of ratable maintain kind of budget needs to be, right?
Correct. The proposed equipment is a mini excavator, skid steer, a chipper, trailer and truck to haul it all. It's about 170 or 80,000, as I recall. And then
And all the muds are sharing that. I mean, you're using it everywhere, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
everybody. Yeah. And then same on the salary side for the crew itself, four crew members, a lead operator that's capable of running the equipment and running a crew, and then some variation of entry level, crew members. One C&D 1s or 2s, what we call collection and distribution. Technician 1 and technician 2 will be helping. Yeah.
So
And
how
we-
is this all going to be rolled out? Is it, we're going to do all of the number threes first? And because or are we just going to go area by area and just, because I see a lot of them are like in streams.
We have all the threes in here, so
Okay, yep.
our proposal is to start tackling those. We won't be able to, for the smaller stuff, our crew stuff, I mean, it's a little difficult to hire 4 guys at the same time, buy all the equipment in month 1.
Right.
So that will likely take a couple months just to get that crew built and get them trained and get, kind of get them into the program. But they weren't going to do a lot of this because we just, a lot of, especially all the pipe placement. We have a plan in place to work with some contractors that we work with on a regular basis that help us with repair and damage stuff. They do this every day for us. So we've got a plan in place to basically kind of line this out and with them and just kind of see. And they're going to need to tell us whether or not they can, arrange to get it done.
Yeah.
That's a good plan.
So if anything comes up, let me know. We'll be asking for approval next month. But it is aggressive, but so one of the things I didn't mention is even with all this stuff in it, your months of reserve end up at about 14.2 months, which is healthy. And then your overall cash reserve at that 14.2 is 10.2 million. So I feel pretty good about, your position, your months of reserve cash as well. So, and that's with doing all this included. So what's not in here is the dam, some of the dam stuff. So once we figure out, kind of how that lines out with the monies that are needed there, we'll obviously have to address that, but you're in pretty good shape right now.
I think last year that you had included a slide that had the impact on the rates on water bill, like an average bill. It was the last page of the same package, the last year's version of it. It just kind of helped us have a kind of handy that this budget is going to increase the average home $5 a month or whatever it is. Can you?
This will not change anything.
Good. Well, that's.
Hands down.
But
We need that slide.
But no,
it's a good slide. I mean, I liked it last year, and I think it's a good practice just to kind of show us what the average 8,000 gallon a month home
we
was
still have that slide.
through cost all of it. I mean, sewer and water, it's all everything to put together. I think you had each piece in it. I think you did. I think.
Yeah, as a go-to slide we use for
Yeah.
various things.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
And I will caveat my last statement by saying that there is the next budget item or the next agenda item covers your proposed tax rate setting.
Yeah.
So that does or doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. It's all on that same. I understand. Any other questions for? That topic? Okay, thanks, Eric. Okay, now we're on to the next section, item 10, the
Yeah, I think
district's proposed 2025 tax rate
on page
discussion.
21, it should start with a letter that looks like this. Just to remind you, the tax rate setting process is a 2-step process. All you're doing today is authorizing publication of the total tax rate. Next month, you'll hold your public hearing and then adopt your tax rates and break it out between maintenance and operations and debt service. Keeping in mind, you want to publish the highest rate you'll consider because you can always come down from that next month. You just can't go up without republishing. So if you look at the cover letter, assumption number 1, your 2025 taxable value that's as of January 1 came in at 3.37 billion. That's just over a 7% increase over last year's 3.14 billion. If you flip to the next page, this is your remaining debt service. So you have 4 more years of payments after this year. Last year you needed 4 1/4 pennies. If you look in that middle column, you need only 4 cents this next year to cover that. And then if you flip to your next page with the table, probably the more informative information, top box with respect to your maintenance and operations side, 2024 M&O rate, you levied 12.3766 cents, which generated about 3.85 million. This year, we're proposing 12.0684, which would generate just over 4 million. Parity, if you wanted to raise the same number of dollars you did last year, you'd need 11.56 cents. And currently, you need about 5.25 pennies to balance your budget, keeping in mind that your value of a penny in your district is just about $334,000. Middle box with respect to your tax bills. Your average homestead last year was $407,441, meaning that your average tax bill was $677. So this year it went up about 7.1% to $436,351, meaning that at the proposed total rate of 16.0684 cents, you would have a $701 tax bill, or a 3.5% increase dollar-wise. It's $24. And then all the way at the bottom, with respect to Senate Bill 2, you are designated as a developed district. So just remember that what that means is in the event that you cross over the 3.5% year-over-year tax bill, you'd be required to hold a mandatory rollback election. And if that election passed, then all the way at that bottom line, the 2025 M&O rollback rate, it would roll you back to 11.9611 cents. And so all that being said, our recommendation would be to publish at the 3.5% increase, which would be the 16.0684 cents. 4 of that being for your debt service and 12.0684 for proposed M&O. And I'll pause there to answer any questions.
So, I have one or maybe two questions.
Okay.
You assume a 2% return on, I think, what do you call it, surplus funds?
Right.
Our budget uses 4%. What, can you explain why you use 2 and why we use
Yeah,
4?
So, during COVID years, we were at next to 0.
Mhm.
And
Right.
it shot up to 5%, and we're slowly trickling back down. So it's a conservative estimate. I mean, I think the pooled classes are probably at just over 4 right now.
So it's just a convention that you're following.
Yeah, just the historical
All right.
average.
What would tell you to raise it?
I mean,
we're not
we used to
COVID.
use 1%.
No, I know. We probably used 8% 20 years
Right,
ago, right?
right.
So I'm just curious what's the path to a number that matches
Yeah, I mean,
our budget?
If you wanted to see 4%, we could always modify it to 4%.
I mean, it's not a ton
Yeah.
of difference. I get that. I'm just trying to understand that.
It's good to be conservative when it comes to paying off our bonds.
I'd say that's the bigger conservative, structural item in here that's consistent across all the recommendations that are provided are anticipating
Zero increase.
in taxable value.
Yeah. And is that always done that way? Or is that another conservative?
You're taking a snapshot in time. So really what you're considering is what your obligation is for the next year.
Yeah.
And then you look at it on an annual basis. So, I mean, it does not happen often, but there have been times where values have gone down.
Is that kind of an industry practice? Would you characterize that? Or is that something like
Yes.
a Woodlands practice?
No, it's an industry
Okay,
looking
okay.
at it just on an annual basis.
That's a big driver. I mean, if you,
Yes, much more than interest.
yeah.
So we're conservative on 2 fronts, the valuation of the homes and the return on our investments.
Yes. And we're in good financial shape.
Yeah.
And, I think part of that lends it to that outcome, right?
And typically, and I mean, this is in the future, but in your last 2 years of debt service, typically what we like to do is, and you don't have much room to do it, but we typically under levy and put it over in your maintenance and operations and just make a transfer. And that way, ultimately, what you end up is a 0 fund balance at the end of your debt cycle. And that way, those pennies are over in your M&O. So as you progress and you're limited by Senate Bill 2, It just gives you a little extra boost at the end, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And our mud is precluded from selling bonds anymore because we don't have the authority from the voters anymore. We
So you
used it.
used up all of your property tax bond authorization. You could issue revenue bonds, but not property tax back bonds without another election.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Everything.
And as Adam mentioned, you do have your debt rolling off completely in a few years. So that 1.3 and change that you're levying for debt service over the next 4 years, a good chunk of that could be moved from that to O&M for maintenance or reduce your tax
Yeah.
rate.
I think that would be helpful. I was thinking of that when we're going through here. Obviously, we have some monies kind of targeted for the 1488 development. But to me, I think it'd be helpful to know what funds we're carrying along. What do we think our real commitments are? Because we have some other costs coming. I mean, whether it's the water lines or the wastewater treatment plant or the dam or, right? And to know whether we have to trigger and get into a revenue generation mode or just can continue to use our quote unquote excess. Reconciling those accounts would be really helpful. It's in a lot of different places right now. To me, it'd be helpful to kind of know what, just for planning purposes, knowing what's coming down the pipeline. With this kind of assumptions built in, right? I think you could use the schedule perfectly and just kind of lay it in there. Could that be done at some point?
As soon as the
When you get-
10-year project plan is updated.
Yeah.
So, right now, there's pending the wastewater treatment plant, there's pending the projects that are in the HDR's recommendations. Those need to be put into that plan. So that is the roadmap for determining what the overall impact of the customers will be and that'll likely be the discussion of which direction to go to get there.
Yeah.
Whether that's in your water bill or rollback. As you recall, we presented, 4 options. Really 2 are not that viable. I think the 2 that rose to the top were, modifying your water bill or rollback tax. And it was clear that the rollback tax option was the best option for the residents in terms of the least expensive or the lesser cost to the resident per resident. But I mean, until we know where all those projects sit on the 10-year plan, we really don't know how that'll, because, ultimately, let's just say on the water line stuff, that they all get, set up about every 15 to 18 months. Well, that presumably is a nice stair step that, you don't want all of them up once probably, because it's a big jump and then you got to ride it out. And the treatment plant, regardless of what, how we go forward with that, it's still going to be some big numbers one way or the other. And so same thing. And then you throw in that somewhere along the way amongst these water line renewal. We just need to know what that is. So
Looking at this debt schedule though, I mean, I would say there's an interesting opportunity for MUD 47 that other districts won't have to possibly avoid a rollback election if you're able to move over this debt service tax, because you've got this cliff coming up that you're going to be dropping off all your debt service, that you can move money from debt service to M&O and essentially stockpile that to be able to offset, if you have higher wholesale rates from the River Authority issuing debt, that potentially you could not do a rollback election. You could use these pennies. That's a lot of money that you contributed to your portion of debt service.
Yes.
So that's an interesting opportunity that other MUDs won't necessarily have.
but those performance definitely can be built. And,
We
keep
hear
in
about
mind,
we hear about it like the total project cost. It's kind of shock and awe.
You gotta think
Until we
about
get
your
down,
share.
until we get down to our mud. In some cases, it's
you're on a bigger
FDUEs or it's connection, whatever it might be, right? I think that'd be helpful for us to just kind of know what our commitments are going to be relative to these funds and where we're going to pierce that line and have to do something different.
Yeah, because you only get this chance once. If you get overly aggressive on lowering your tax rate, so that pushes down where your 3.5% number starts, it's over. You only get this chance once. I mean, you're paying off your debt. You've got a chance to be able to move that over, but you only have it once.
Yeah.
What year did that happen?
Well, it drops completely off on 29, so 4 or 5 more years.
Usually the last 2 years, like I said, we'll transfer some of it and then have an operating transfer to cover the shortfall and do the same thing the last year.
I move we put out the notice to consider adoption of the tax rate and the means of providing such notice.
Okay, do you have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
I have a proposed figure at the 12 cents. 12.64.
Yeah, I proposed it.
The proposed total rate is 0.16068.
We'll allocate the
Correct.
maintenance and operations next month. All right, good. Thank you. All right, item 11, SJRA Woodlands Division report. Hello.
Chris is unable to be here this evening, so I get the opportunity to talk to you this evening about our Woodlands Monthly Operations Report, which starts on page 24 of your packets. This month, for the month of July, there was nothing out of the ordinary. You do see that our water demand was up. Obviously, the hot, dry July, we had that extra demand. A couple notes on your project list. We did complete one project that I'd like to talk to you about or raise your attention to are our water wells. Numbers 22, 26, and 33 were complete for those rehabs. And then on the last page of that project list, we do have a new project that's going to the SJR Board of Directors next Thursday, and that's the Woodlands Division Disinfection Byproduct Study. You also have a copy of the GRP Monthly Operations Report in your packet, and we can answer any questions if you have any.
Questions on the monthly report? Thank you very much. Okay, item 12, discuss and act on the waterline renewal plan and analysis completed by HDR engineers.
I just have this on all the agendas to continue to give folks a chance to discuss things. To update the board, the trustees did approve the moving of funds to proceed with redesign of town center as well as easement acquisitions for town center as well. So that was approved unanimously. And then that leaves 6 projects that were recommended by the experts. And there's a couple directors that still have some questions that we're working through with HDR. So ultimately, next month or so, we're going to need to give direction to SJRA as to, go forward with putting whatever projects into the 10-year plan, which circles back to our previous discussion. We need it. That's the first step. We got to know where they're going to be placed. And then we can start talking about how to fund them and when to fund them and all that. So other than that, that's all I had on that. There was a lot of discussion at the trustee.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's, we summarized some of it in the trustee packet, but trustee didn't.
Yeah, we can talk about maybe there. I think it's worth just going through it or watching the video. It's another way to get that information.
Yeah, I guess I can say something. The big takeaway was, I think there were 7 projects and it was recommended that they were, within 10 years, put somewhere in 10 years. And I think there was maybe some understanding that or expectation that meant that they ought to be done in 10 years. Well, each one of them is about 4 or 5 years long. So in order to accomplish that, they'd all have to be done or started by year 5. And that wouldn't be, spacing them out, funding, none of that would make sense, probably not feasible, Rick. With as many, miles of project that needed to be done. So that's why it's really important to identify what the projects are and where they're going to go. Ideally, the funds are in place and moving forward for design of town center. That's project 1. So likely, just theoretically, you might sell bonds for construction of project 1. maybe you put the engineering of project 2 in there. And that's your bond out. And then a couple of years later, or a year and a half later, or whatever, you get construction for 2, engineering for 3, and you just kind of follow that methodical, step through 10 years, which means the last project is probably not done until year, 10, 15, or 15 or longer. So that's likely what probably makes sense, but until we can get that direction to SJRA, we're kind of stuck here.
And I think SJRA committed to maybe September, October to have that, to drop these projects in the 10-year plan, right? And to have a story around why one's first, one's second, one's third, correct?
No, that motion did not pass. What was discussed was to have SJRA put in allocations in just kind of what would you call it?
Tranche, if you talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically just put in tranche allocations of funds every couple years, not specifically with a particular project in mind. Because some of the discussion from some of the directors still have questions is, well, which one should go where, what tier is in it, and all that. And the point is that, well, regardless of which one goes where, within year 1 or year 3 or year whatever, is that what we do know is that if we do space them out, appropriately, then you're going to have about 15 to 20 million or so every about 18 months, right? So it doesn't really matter which tier went where from that argument. So let's figure out what the money looks like, and that's kind of the direction that.
So there's some prioritization that needs to be done.
There would have.
There are some lines that are in worse shape than others.
That, right, without looking at the projects
Okay.
themselves, because not all projects are 15 million. One
Correct.
was 20, one was, the different numbers. And so I think some certainly have to look at the recommendations, look at the tiering, and utilize that to kind of give you a good line of sight to where those would fit.
I think the idea is that we know we have lines that need to be replaced and repaired. And over the next 15 years-ish, the recommendation from the experts is that you get most of that done. And there's some debate about what's first and second and third and fourth and fifth. I mean, we're going to start with town center, and we don't want to kind of every time a project comes up, debate whether we should do it now or a year from now, or is this the right project? We need to have a program that we can plan around. And then as data moves forward, as we get breaks and things happen, you might pace some lines and say, this thing is not breaking as often as it did, but this other one started having some problems. So let's swap it, or we do 2 together. Because there's
comes out of the blue.
There's economies. Yeah, whatever. But to me, it's SJRA and the Woodlands Water combining together and saying, this is the best plan we can come up with. We spent a lot of money getting analysis, and let's put it to good use. And I don't think that's the director's role to be telling you what lines to do first. I think that's what your roles are, to tell us based on what you know. And then the MUDs in the future we kind of figure out how the funding goes, right? Which some may pay by cash, some may pay with bonds. That's a whole nother thing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Okay, good. Okay, let's move to item 13, the Bear Branch Dam modification project.
Yeah, so, obviously we had the 5 mud. You're one of the maintenance stakeholders in that, so you kind of, you know more than a lot. But at the end of that presentation, there was comments and questions about what if some of the other MUDs want to get involved. And so we've put this on all the agendas to walk through with everyone, keeping in mind that the other 5 that are not stakeholders have never really seen any of this. So that it's not on their radar. So I wanted to make sure that we had that on the agenda so that we could walk them through, what we're looking at. And so the idea would be is to present and get them up to speed on what as far as the condition of the dam, the presentation that you saw prior, and see if there's any interest in any other of the non-stakeholder MUDs to step in. So far we've had 2 of those 5 meetings, and both have made motions to move forward with the least interest to see what the numbers look like, and so.
The concept of the Greater Woodlands benefits from not having that dam break. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Was
what
it
it
Mud
would be if
One
we
and
had incorporated.
Yeah, yeah.
Metro, yeah.
That's from my one, yeah. Tomorrow we have the other three, so we'll just see. I mean, I don't have any insight yet on how that'll go. You know, two of them are directly impacted. If the dam were to break, one's not impacted nor puts water there at all. So I don't know where they'll go with it, but we'll see.
So can I ask a question? On the, I think it was on page 46. Which was looking at these two options, right?
Oh, yeah.
What happens between just the muds that are in it now versus all of them in? Can you explain to me how mud 47 in option 1 has 7,000 SFDUEs and 7,144 and 7,531 in option 2, but mud 46 goes from 2,291 to 8,396. How does,
So
what am I missing here when you expand this to the whole woodlands? Why does,
the agreement states that the pro ratas in option 1, which is the existing stakeholders, is based on the number of connections that
Feed
that feed water to the drainage area, right? So
Wow.
if you're adding members that don't add water,
yeah,
then theoretically you go to connections. Now, maybe there's another way to look at that, but then that's why the other connections go up, because now we're looking at not just water that goes in, because theirs would stay zero. They don't provide any water into that watershed. So
yeah, that's sorry. Go ahead.
well, no, the philosophy of the pro rata changes at that point. And then if we only have 7, or if we only have 8, or whatever the numbers end up being, participants, we'd have to find some equitable way to look at that.
So we're just a lucky one that has 50% of the SFDUEs that feed into the Bear Branch. Is that right?
You have a lot of the water in that watershed, a lot of land.
Yeah, that whole bridge area, north of the dam.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, I appreciate this from the other muds because there's a lot of burden on us. This and in the Bear Branch flood project. You know, that's a project that really can benefit people that don't even live in the woodlands that are using research to get home. You know, and
Just look at the fact that if something did happen, what happens to the home values of the woodlands? What happens to, the perspective of the township as a whole? I mean, we are a collective
isn't.
township.
my point is that it's a big burden on us on these kinds of projects. And I appreciate this effort.
Yeah, it just struck me when I looked at the map and I saw that our two pieces of 47. I guess nothing to the east of or downstream of the dam, none of those SFUs contribute to it, right? It's all Alden Bridge. It just seems like.
No, there's some, it's
There's
all
some
the
there?
branch.
Okay.
And I recall the map also includes folks that are along the branch as it goes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It picks up Alden Bridge.
Oh, and everything downstream of the, okay.
Yeah.
Not just what goes into the reservoir.
Okay.
Basically all the way down to Gosman.
Yeah, that map was an eye opener of just
That
all of
makes
the
sense.
little areas and that, where it's like, if it did happen, all your property is going to be affected.
It's nice of Arthur to step up in that meeting.
And both those boards that broke up, they followed suit.
Yeah.
I think it was unanimous across all those directors, as I recall.
How do the golf courses participate? With the owners of the golf course land?
I don't think at all. I mean, I don't know.
Does that make sense?
There's a private property owner similar to a homeowner.
Yeah,
The district is what's
it's
responsible.
like a big old SFDUE, huh?
You use a lot of groundwater.
Yeah.
Well, and it all drains into the same Bear Branch that we do. I mean, I see this ditch every time. I'm just curious, there's Carlton Woods Country Club, you got the Palmer.
Mhm.
Why wouldn't they be part of this?
Because the districts are the ones that are responsible for maintaining drainage, not private parties. So golf course is similar to a home or a commercial building or what have you. That's like saying, why doesn't this office building contribute to the project? Are you talking about?
Metro,
Are they counted?
why not? Well, Metro is part of not this. I mean, if they did participate, they would pick up something here. Are they,
the
right? What am I missing?
district? Are you talking about?
That would be like saying, why doesn't Kroger jump in? Why doesn't McDonald's jump in?
They're a customer just like we are, and they're contributing just like we are.
Through their taxes.
Yeah.
Right.
The same, yeah.
But they're not gonna rehabilitate the dam?
They're paying as a taxpayer, just like your other users are.
Wonder how many SFDUEs are counted for like the golf course, the country club, whatever.
I think I just got it.
Be based on their support, they're paying through their tax ability.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
Okay.
building?
We're gonna spend the money and they're gonna
Not
be.
just, not the tax structure. Or we could just pass the hat. Take it to the country.
Yeah, good luck.
I like the question. I gotta make it.
Think
No
about
one
it.
else to
Think about it. Think about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Talk
true.
about churches.
I appreciate it.
Taxes.
Hugh, in one respect, members of the golf course are contributing.
Yeah. If they're in the muds.
And they wouldn't want to pay twice.
Hopefully you can convince the other muds to jump on board. Everybody's doing it.
Yes, I think there, even some of the hurdles could be financial for some of the others too, whether they want to or not. They're just in a different position than y'all.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we'll cross that bridge tomorrow.
Well, that explains that. Thank you for getting my head straight around that. Okay, now we're moving on to item 15, consider an act. What did I miss that? Sorry.
The Bear Branch, Pants Branch.
Yeah. Sorry,
Can't wait to
sorry.
hear about
I don't want to hear this.
that.
So an opportunity presented itself over the last few weeks. And that was, Ed brought to my attention some programs, various programs that might be a possibility. So we had a couple meetings, the last of which was with the Army Corps of Engineers. And we met with them to talk about several of their funding options. So if you recall, the 5 million that we talked about earlier about the dam, that was capped at 5. We couldn't ask for 10 in that program. It also doesn't come with it a lot of the oversight and control that the Corps, would have in bigger projects. But these other programs, one in particular, so we had a meeting with the Corps a couple of weeks ago and laid out the whole project, laid out what we've done, the benefits, everything that we've done with LJ's modeling and all that. And they've got a program where they would come in, the steps are is that they would come in, do their own analysis with staff, not modeling, but look at what we've done basically to do a preliminary look to see if they felt like it could be a potential for one of these programs. If they felt at that point that it would, then they would take it to the next level where they would request from the Fed $10,000 that they would utilize to actually go in and do a much deeper dive in doing the due diligence on the project. If after that, which is about a 90-day look, if at the completion of that 90-day look by the Corps, that they believe it meets all the criteria, it's the cost benefit analysis and all their other criteria, then they would make recommendation to move it into one of their programs. In which case we would get all of the funding that we would need to cover the delta that we don't have today, with the exception of a 60% match, which we have $11.3 million, which is about 58% of 20 million, just for instance. So we would already, I think, be there and they would be able to, come up with the rest. So I feel like that's a big enough possibility to be worthwhile to go after. Doesn't cost us anything other than putting the application together. They did recommend or require that we get a letter of support from the congressman. And so we would need to do that. I asked if letters of support from other local agencies would be advisable, and they said not required, but definitely would help. Just knowing, I think one of the criteria that they look at is that, you know, as they're going through their due diligence, they want to know that it's a supported project. They want to know that doesn't have opposition or that it has, you know, support. So getting the township and the commissioner and, you know, local reps and, you know, others, all the MUDs, I would recommend doing it. Is that we go in and see if we can get, you know, letter of support for that and then put that in the application.
So it needs a letter of support from Dan Crenshaw? Now, did you go to Rich Wheeler on this subject? Okay, this
No.
better to do this. Okay.
Yeah, I was kind of walking through that and this popped up and I said, hold on here. Let's see where this goes. So.
Good.
Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, and it's not I mean, there's some hurdles. It's probably not going to be the highest of scoring. And I think that they were candid with that, but they thought that, you know, that they would do their best to try to find, you know, reasons and ways to score it well, you know, because it does have a benefit to the woodlands. It does have a benefit to safety and mobility and all those things. So.
Is this a relatively new program?
No.
Okay, we just stumbled on it.
Well, we haven't had the need to pursue large federally funded projects in the past.
And there is a trade-off when you go this route. You lose some control. There have a lot.
Did they run the project then?
We've already lost control, so. It's MUD 67's money now. At least MUD 47's portion is now not ours, it's theirs.
What do you mean?
Well, we contributed money to the MUD 67 project, MUD 47 did. And so we don't, as a board, discuss what we're going to do with it. We've said to ourselves, we're giving this money to MUD 67. So to that end, we've lost control. Maybe we could ask back.
Meaning our financial exposure
Yeah.
is done.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I mean, there's an interlocal agreement that provides for everybody contributing. There's a true up. And if there's a shortfall, the districts that have contributed, you know, will
The
have.
management of the project isn't, like, literally, we don't manage the project at this board meeting.
Correct. You're right about that. As far as
That's all I meant. I mean,
Gotcha.
the cost exposure was kind of what I keyed in.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Are we gonna have another meeting anytime soon?
We can. I'm presenting this to all the stakeholders right now. There's really no need to meet at this moment. That application is very short fused. It needs to be in by the end of the month. And so the letter of support, he said, could lag behind. But we need to get working on that as well. So, I mean, I think it's worthwhile to proceed. Just, you know, all they can do is say no.
Yeah.
At the end of August, it needs to be in.
Yeah,
Wow.
the application.
And are you guys writing that?
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Awesome.
I just thought of someone we might want to, because of the impact of this project to some of the thoroughfares, is giving Jessica Millsap on Office of Emergency Management and give a letter of support for him.
Absolutely.
In addition to Commissioner Keough.
Indeed.
Any other
Thank you.
questions on that? Yeah. Okay, item 15 now. Consider an act on the pay application number 1 for the retail wastewater collection system rehabilitation year 2.
So this is sanitary sewer rehab, year 2 or phase 2, year 9 participants. This will be on the agenda each month, probably roll it up in consent, but this is just to consider and approve the pay applications from the contractor for work completed. You this month do not have any work completed that was done in 47. So MUD 6 and 16, that's just random. I mean, that's just how the contractor decided to, you know, what to tackle first. So there's no magic to what got done first, but the contractor is just going down their list. And so I presume as we get rolling, they've only been working for about 45 days or so. You'll start to see a little bit more. So no expenditure this month, but I wanted to get everybody kind of focused that it's coming and start putting this on the agendas. As we'll continue to see payouts likely every month for probably the next 6 to 9 months. Okay, so no action tonight.
Anything? Okay, all right. Okay, item 16.
Not much on the attorney's report. I think the quorum issues may probably be resolved at the legislature, so we'll see what progress gets made on special session items. Nothing much to cover otherwise.
Okay. All right. Thanks,
Happy to
Brian.
answer questions if you have.
Anything from Brian? Okay. Consider an act on the resolution concerning developed district status for 2000.
This is the annual confirmation that you are a developed district. That's how the budget was
Yeah.
built, and also the tax rate recommendation. So you're limited to 3.5% without being subject to an automatic collection. You have a motion to approve that resolution.
Please, Tom.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, Eric, GM report, item 18.
All right, we did a lot of the heavy lifting already. Just wanted to remind you of the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District meetings coming up September 17th and 18th. The GMA 14 on the 17th, and then the MUD information meeting on the 18th. And you can sign up for those on their website. Give you an update on the SFDUE study for the wastewater treatment plant. We're grinding on that, and hopefully we'll have it done here in the next month or so. We've been kind of putting it aside for a minute to get all this ditch and budget stuff done over the last 30 days or so. So we're jumping back on that, and we're going to focus on that. And then I want to let you know that I will be speaking at the township on Thursday evening. There's an agenda item they put on their agenda to talk about emergency access through the woodlands in case of flooding event, kind of as response to the Kerrville flooding stuff. And so they've asked SGRA and us to kind of speak to what that means. I think SGRA is going to talk about the Spring Creek Drainage Project, the big project, and then I was going to focus mainly on the project we just talked about, and giving them some updates on kind of what we've done over the last couple of years and where we are now and the direction we're heading. And then it was asked a couple times today whether or not that would include a discussion of the dam. So probably makes sense that that's part of the discussion. I'm not going to get into all the details of the report, but probably talk that that's part of the system. And we're also looking at rehabilitating that as well as part of this kind of whole drainage system, that being Bear and Bear Panther. So that'll be on this Thursday. And with that, we get to John.
Good evening. I'll refer you to page 75 of the communications report. Continuing to progress on infrastructure renewal. Couple projects still in development that I think we're going to see buttoned up here pretty soon. One being that GIS interactive map where you can pull up the project information, see where it relates to your local area. And then we have that renewal video in production as well. So we got the PEC got a sneak preview of it, but there's more to be filled in. We've got interviews that are happening. Some have already happened, some will happen. They'll be spliced in that video. But so far it looks great. And we can also pull snippets of that video out and post it as like short reels on social media. So I think we can make some really good hay out of that product. So I'm excited for you folks to see that soon. The community working group is targeted to meet on September 10th. HGR is going to present. We just have to see if that date is going to work. If not, we'll hold it shortly thereafter. If you want to watch that presentation, the recorded presentation of the Schnabel Engineering presentation on Bear Branch Dam, that is available now on YouTube, our YouTube channel. You can QR it right there as well. Got some current marketing materials, the next couple pages, and then your outreach calendar on page 78. Starting to fill that up a bit. We'll see a lot more coming with VA meetings, fall festivals, and so forth. And I'll be at the farmer's market on Saturday.
How's your new employee working out?
Great. Yeah,
Pretty good.
she is. I think we've got a higher quality product. You know, I think she's really sharpened the image of our posts. We've certainly seen a tremendous response in both reach and engagement across platforms. We've added platforms recently. Well, LinkedIn was added recently, but really beefed up some of the other ones. So I couldn't be happier. Thank you. Yeah. Speaking of videos and social media, so SGRA just put out a series of videos. I think there's 60 in total that they're going to release surrounding their 50th anniversary. So these are short 30-second interviews with folks like Eric and Jim Stenson and Hartley and, you know, just all kinds of folks that are shedding light on our water system, on the history, on the vision that George Mitchell had for our water system. The ones I've seen have been really enlightening and educational for me. So look for those. You can find them on their YouTube page, on their social media feeds. We are sharing those as well. So you can find them on our Facebook page. Yeah. Any questions?
Just gonna make one comment. I noticed that our mud meetings have seen a big uptick in viewership. So that's neat.
Good. That's what we want.
In the hunt.
We've stepped up our notices as far as mud meetings, you know, reminding folks when these meetings are happening, that they're encouraged to attend. If they cannot attend, that those recordings are always available to them. So
I'll show a comment. I had a leaky sprinkler and I called the wise guys. Really professional.
Yeah.
I was really impressed. Thomas.
okay,
I
yeah,
don't remember his last name, but it was really, really good.
they are fantastic. If you haven't used that service, you get like a 4-page detailed report on your whole system. They spend a long time out there, really go through things. I learned a lot about my controller settings, so tell your neighbors, make use of it.
Licensed irrigation people, not just.
Just fly-by-night
And
guys.
veteran, they've been through it around a while.
It's all free.
They know what they're doing.
Put a lot of work into it.
They're experts.
That's a good program.
I did that last year.
Great. Thanks, John. All right, item 19, the Woodlands Water Trustee Report.
I covered,
Yeah.
covered that with the North Town Center and then also, some of that dialogue around.
HDR.
So you're just waiting on the projects to kind of get timelined and come up with some.
I mean, that was the suggestion that was, I think, adopted, I would say, by SJRA. Notwithstanding some of the questions that are still kind of out there, but that we'd have a process to make sure we get this work done and that it's kind of enduring. It's not just from year to year, from mud to mud, and it gets starts and it gets stopped, depending upon who's sitting where, right?
Especially if you get new mud directors and you have.
Yeah, every 2 years you have a chance to have things change. So, and that was the concept. I think most people thought that made sense to go ahead and try to do that.
Good.
So when it shows up in the capital budget, then we'll have a chance to kind of then model some of that through rates and see how that works. I don't think there was much. We did have a discussion from Cornerstone, which was pretty helpful. And if you read the information here, just describing what they do and that they were pretty effective with Ben Crenshaw getting the 5 million, the Bear Branch modification, and looking at some other areas of high interest. So I think it was pretty informative. And I think that was pretty much it. Personnel committee met. That was to go through Eric's budget on salary, which was approved. And then the audit and finance committee and then the PEC did the same thing, which John just described, pretty much what this community working group is going to be doing next time, kind of following up on the last project, which is the waterline project, informing that group that the study found. Remember, we're trying to pace that so that all that happens after the MUDs have all seen that information, and then it gets onto the community working group for their use and for their understanding and knowledge. I think that's about it. Okay, any questions, comments? Okay, all right. I don't see any reason to go
There's
into
not.
closed session, then we don't need to reconvene. We don't have any folks from the public here. Any items for future agenda that we haven't already discussed? Anything left?
Don't be a handful of these recurring, some of those open items.
Yeah, okay. All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.